This program is made possible by a grant from Wachovia Bank and Trust Company.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. North Carolina People is in Carter Finley Stadium at North Carolina State University, and I'm sitting here in the good company of the two men who are the Wolfpack Sports Network. On my left, Gary Dornburg, the popular host to that very popular program, Sportsline on WPTF, and here, the old master himself, Wally Ausley, who's been the voice of the Wolfpack for ages. How are you, Wally?
Fine, sir, and good to be here with you. It seems like forever since I've been the voice of the Wolfpack.
Yeah. Well, first, tell us a little something about the network. How far do we reach? Who gets to hear us up and down the coast?
We have a little slogan about our network in the state that we go from Waynesville to Wanchese. We have 57 stations this year on the network. It's the largest we've ever had. And then, of course, some of our stations cover a lot of states, like WPTF, for example. So we actually go from Guantanamo Bay all the way up the coast.
Well, I've heard people call Gary on his program from Florida at night driving around here. So you're bound to be reaching out like that.
Yes, sir. Our signal happens to go directional down in that direction, so we do cover all the way south to Florida.
Gary, everybody knows Wally has been around here at WPTF for that long, but when did you get into radio?
Well, I started in radio in 1962. The day I turned 16 years of age, I went to work in Elkin, North Carolina,
Really?
WIFM, which incidentally happens to be on our network, and we're happy to have them. And when I moved here to Raleigh in 1965, I came to work at WPTF, so I've been there 17 years now.
That's wonderful. Well, now, fellas, I know that the folks listening to us this evening and watching this program would, they could ask you, they'd say, well, tell us how you really go about putting on a football game on this vast network now. What happens when you go up there in that booth and sit down and open the windows and all this excitement and color? But I know there's a lot that goes on behind it. Wally, what about it?
Well, mine has changed a little bit in recent years from sort of a vocation to an avocation. So Gary's the guy who sort of runs the show, but for my part, I do a lot of preparation on names and numbers. Doing the play-by-play, I really do have to do that. Football is lots more of a preparation than basketball, for example. So my wife joins in with me on that. She sits down with a big typewriter, usually on a Monday or Tuesday night, and we get the rosters typed out about 3 deep for both teams' offense and defense, get them on a spotting board, and then I memorize those names and numbers, and then at the game we have spotters. We have a person, by the way, these two people have been with us for years, and I'd like to mention who they are.
Sure.
Francis Combs, who was a great athlete at NC State, always spots the opposing team.
Right.
And Howard Baum from Fayetteville does NC State and also does our statistics. We have a relatively small crew compared to other networks possibly because Gary, Howard, Francis, and the engineer and I do the games. And a lot of folks have producers, but Gary produces the show and does the analysis and this kind of thing. But that's what happens so far as my preparation is concerned. Now, Gary does lots more because he studies films, talks to the opposing coaches, interviews players, and gets that kind of background because that's where he really becomes so valuable as sort of the guy on the field kind of approach to it between plays and things like that. So far as preparation for the game itself, you try to become as familiar as you can as what a team might do, but obviously you get some surprises.
Gary, does that mean that you're out here talking to coaches, doing taping and studying for yourself?
Oh, yeah, quite a bit. Of course, being in the job that I am at WPTF, I get to talk to all the coaches, which is great, and keep track of all the schools. So by the time that State runs across the various teams in the Atlantic Coast Conference, I probably know as much about them as I do about State. But no, getting to know Lou Holtz and Bo Ryan and Monty Kiffin now for football, and of course Norm Sloan and Jim Valvano, and getting to know the players. If you get to know a guy well enough, you can sometimes know what's running through his mind on the field in a particular situation. And that way, when you step out on the limb a little bit about how he may feel, you're going to be accurate.
Well, you know, when you've got hundreds of thousands of people listening to you, You pay attention all right, don't you?
Oh yes, indeed. They would like to think too that when you have something to say that you know what you're talking about. And I think over the years that they have a lot of faith in Wally and I.
You know what interests me so is that when I worked for WPTF back in the late 30s with Jim Reed and J.B. Clark, we had one board on each side of each of us, and that was the crew.
You had 3 people, huh?
We carried it all the way.
I tell you though, as Wally will say, and he's already mentioned Francis and Howard.
Yeah.
My coming into the situation, it was so easy stepping into that seat there with that crew, because you really have to see the kind of job that those 2 guys do to believe how good they are.
They've been doing it for about 15 years.
Well, they get to be, you know every move they
Sure.
make, you operate by instinct.
Right.
And
And
they
we have a
hear
lot
your
of signals.
voice.
Sure.
They know what your voice
Right.
tone's saying, so it's really a great broadcast.
Thank
I
you,
listen
sir.
to you a lot. Looky, by the time this show airs, State will have already played Furman, and by the time it airs on this following Sunday night, Carolina will have played, and State will have played the second game.
Let's hope it's all happy.
Yeah, it's to say, I should
I
say.
think Carolina probably has the toughest
Yeah.
row of anybody, and I hope that, as you say, when it's aired, they will have beaten Pittsburgh.
Well, what do you think about the conference this year? Is the ACC truly a competitive national football conference now?
Well, in my opinion, it definitely is. I don't think you win the national championship by accident. And not only Clemson, but look, Carolina was so close. When you stop to think about their season last year, as I recall, Clemson just barely edged them in defeating them. And the South Carolina game had to be a fluke. I think if they played 20 times, Carolina would beat them the next 19. But at that particular day, it didn't happen, right?
Right.
So, but those were the only 2 games they lost, so they had a great ball club. And I think State had a better team than its record.
Yeah.
I'm prejudiced. I mean, we present the State viewpoint. I never, by the way, would I would never do anything inaccurately or misrepresent what happens on this field.
Sure.
Or at any place we're broadcasting, because I happen to be the State broadcaster. But I know those kids, and I know those coaches better. And you just can't help but present their side of it. I know more background on them, this kind of thing. But to answer your question, I not only think that the ACC is competitive, but I just think it's one of the greatest leagues in the country.
Well, you know, a player like Joe McIntosh, that boy's a real athlete, isn't he, Gary?
Oh, he's fantastic, and not only that, and I think what it doesn't really set him apart or anything, because there are a lot of great gentlemen who play this game, but he really is a true gentleman, and it's just been a pleasure for 1 year to work with him, and now I've already had a chance here in the drills, and now coming into the season to work with him again, and I think he's going to have a fantastic year. He is a quality runner.
Can you believe we probably have the 2 best runners in the country here within 25 miles of each other?
Oh, Kelvin Bryant
And
is
they're on the
fantastic.
same field one
Yes,
day.
sir. That's great.
That'll be a busy afternoon. for you.
Indeed.
It wouldn't make any difference if no one showed up. I mean, you'd still have 50,000 people in here, because it's still State and Carolina, or over at Keenan Stadium as it will be this year.
Well, you know, that's something I've noticed about NC State of late. I come over here to most of the games, and there's a spirit around this place, Wally. This place is full nearly every ball game.
Well, as we were commenting before we started to do the program today, it is a beautiful setting. There's a lot of great parking around it. I mean, close by. You don't have to walk very far from your car, and it's becoming more and more accessible from the highways coming into it. It's a pretty easy access stadium. And you know, one thing that has really become popular here, Bill, is the tailgating at this place.
Yeah.
And that's not unique. I mean, it's all over the country now, but I saw it here among the first places I saw it. Folks will get here 2 or 3 hours before it, and it's a social event.
Well, your colleague, Mario Odell,
Yes,
makes
sir.
it that way.
Yeah, right outside, he's doing the tailgate show.
Some of them are pretty elaborate, too, as a matter of fact.
Well, I saw him with a team that was reunioning last year. Jack Huckabee's group, Frank Owens, all those great
Right.
boys that played football here when I was in school, and they were really great athletes. What's the most exciting football game you've ever seen? Or 2 or 3?
Oh, goodness. I think I'll name you 2, really, and these will be relatively modern times, because the first time I ever saw State play was when I was in high school and got to come up from Harnett County to watch them play in the old Riddick Stadium way over yonder on the campus where you went to school, and Alex Webster was on that team. They wore the old khaki uniforms that looked like Army surplus. Remember those? But I'd say that we went down to the Astrodome, first time I'd ever seen it, and Houston was ranked number 2 in the nation. Earl Edwards was the coach then. We sure ought to mention him as one of the greats here at this school. And NC State upset Houston. And they had already rented a big ballroom in the hotel we were staying for their victory celebration. That is the Houston folks. And that was an exciting game. Even halftime was exciting. Fred Waring was there, and they had high school choruses and bands from all over Texas in there, and they did things like America the Beautiful and did a patriotic thing. That made it exciting. And also, I think the first time Lou Holtz won the Peach Bowl in Atlanta, when everybody thought West Virginia was going to kill State, and we upset them down there. That was a very exciting game. There have been a lot of great ones.
Those are the ones you've seen, Gary?
Oh, yeah, and I also go back to the Lou Holtz era, too, with Dave and Don Bucky. I don't think I'll ever forget that Virginia comeback up in Charlottesville when State trailed 21-0 in the fourth quarter and came back to win it 22-21. They're just incredible. Actually, that was a year of comebacks. They also beat Duke the same way, as a matter of fact. But you know, you mentioned that Astor Bluebonnet Bowl game. They had to score and did score twice in the last 4.5 minutes of the game to tie it up.
Yeah, that was a different game, Gary.
Oh,
I'm talking about a regular season game with Houston back in the 60s.
I heard
with the white shoes defense.
Yes,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah, it was great.
Well, you know, I remember that Virginia game, and I remember how exciting it was. Do you ever get so excited you couldn't follow the play?
I've been fortunate there, I guess. I get very involved in the broadcast when I do it. I hope nobody would ever say I'm not enthusiastic. However, I'm not really a cheerleader kind of broadcaster, and so as a result of that, I can pretty well separate myself from what's happening on the field or the floor. So no, I've been lucky. I've never gotten tongue-tied. Been excited a lot of times.
The sport line during the season turn into a Monday morning quarterback sometimes, would you?
Oh, it can. It all depends what happens the previous Saturday, but more often than not, we get a lot of second guessing, and that's just the nature of the fan. That's the nature of all of us. I mean, that's just the nature of the human being, and as long as it's kept on a nice, friendly level, then I think it can be constructive. But yes, indeed, it's not just State or Carolina. It can be anything that happens in the pros or in college football, but obviously State and Carolina and Duke, Wake Forest, they do prompt the most interest.
My observation as a listener to Gary's Sports Line show is that Monday becomes the day when all the referees and coaches call in. Thousands.
It's just amazing how many there are, aren't there? I didn't know there were that many in the payroll.
Well, you're a longtime colleague at Sports Encyclopedia, I hear, and of course a very dear friend of mine, Dick Herbert, is no longer with you.
No, Dick has really stepped down in a lot of positions this year. He still is with the American Football Coaches Association and probably will be for another year and a half or 2 years until he reaches the age of 70. But starting earlier this year, he has really stepped down in a lot of roles with the Atlantic Coast Sports Writers Association, with the football writers, and also the Football Hall of Fame, the North Carolina Hall of Fame, and now with Sportsline just a few weeks ago. I'm glad to say, I'm very happy to say that he'll be, making not a regular appearance, but he will be coming on Sportsline and visiting with the folks.
Got to keep him around. He's
valuable. He certainly, he and Gary, they're a lot alike in their ability to remember and to recall things. Of course, Gary is young enough to be his son, but nevertheless, they both have this great ability to recall events and facts and figures and things like that. Dick's just been a joy, and especially when he moved from one career field to another, from newspaper to broadcasting, I would think wouldn't be that easy, but I thought he'd made the transition well.
He's just a great sports figure.
Absolutely,
in his own right.
He sure is.
Well, I know we're sitting out here in Carter Finley and talking football, but you cover all sports at NC State, you two. What's the greatest basketball game you ever called?
Well, I don't have to hesitate on that one, because that one took place in Greensboro in March of 1974. And it was a semifinals game. A lot of people, a great trivia question is, who did NC State beat for the national championship in '74? And people say, UCLA. Of course, that's not true. They beat UCLA in the semifinals, and the thing was in, what was it, Gary, 2 or 3 overtimes?
That was in 2 overtimes.
Okay, well, in the second overtime, with about 2.5 minutes left to go, UCLA's leading State by 7 points. And they really were celebrating. The players on the floor even were just patting each other on the back and very pleased with their victory. And State had one of the greatest comebacks I've ever seen in basketball, with David Thompson and Monty Tao and Tommy Burleson, and who's a pitcher for the Orioles, Timmy Stoddard, and Mo Rivers was he the other starter?
Phil Spence was on there too.
And they somehow or other came back against a great basketball team and beat UCLA to go to the championship, and then beat Marquette, which was almost anticlimactic. But that was the most exciting game I've ever done.
There was another one over there against Maryland.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes, that's probably the best basketball game I've ever seen. That was in the ACC tournament.
Yeah.
And both teams went over 100 points, as I recall.
Yeah, 103 to 100, I think.
Oh, that was...
Had 5 All-Americans on the floor
Yeah,
at one
yeah.
time.
And one of the All-Americans actually made a mistake. The young man from Maryland, Lucas. John Lucas, who is a great basketball player and a very smart young man from Durham, and made a mistake and threw the ball up in the stands on a bad pass. It gave the state a chance to tie the thing up.
It's like last time.
Yeah, that's right.
Wally, looking from your long and involved and very perceptive experience with intercollegiate athletics, what do you see today? You know, I've been involved in some conversation. You read a lot, Gary. I'll speak for myself. I don't see these problems in our institutions. I think that people we have administering and coaching in these campuses are just first-rate citizens.
Well, that's my observation too, and I certainly hope that's right, because I get disturbed about what I hear and what I read about the recruiting of athletes. I think I really think it's too intense. I don't know how you can avoid that. If I knew the answer, I'd tell you right away, and you would implement it in the greater university system, I'm sure. But that bothers me, that these youngsters that are 16 and 17 years old get pressure from such professional salespeople. Not only do they use their skills, but sometimes, unfortunately, well, according to Tate's Locke's book, which I just read, Caught in the Net, he admitted cheating down at Clemson and quoted Tree Rollins, one of the players he recruited, as telling all this extra money that he used to get. Well, I don't like that. That just absolutely angers me, that the pure amateur collegiate athletics that I love so well could have this happen to it by obviously a few people. Now, my question to you, sir, as a president, is does a rotten apple spoil the barrel? I hope that it doesn't, but just in case it might, I hope we can get the rotten apples out.
Well, you start from the premise that public institutions are going to have intercollegiate athletics.
Yes, sir.
And you get people who understand that and want to see it succeed in that context.
Right.
And I've watched it for 30 years, and I really believe in the people we have. And I think Willis Casey, for example, has done a fine piece of work here. And say the same for young John Swafford.
Yes,
he's a talented person.
Well, these folks that I know are beyond reproach. I just have never had any doubt about their character when it comes to running the athletic department. And the coaches that I happen to know, I feel the same way about them. I cannot cite you a case, and I've been very close on the inside with some teams over the years, and I cannot cite you a case that I know of where anybody, I'll use the word cheated, that's not a nice word, but I've never known of anybody personally that I knew who had cheated.
Gary, when people call you on Sportsline, do you sense a genuine concern about the integrity of intercollegiate athletics?
Very much so, and I think maybe never more so than just recently with the San Francisco situation and with other cases and other incidences coming to light across the country. I think the last 2 or 3 years have been pivotal as far as public interest and public concern in several areas, not just in recruiting, but I think in conduct off campus and on campus while the students are in school as well. All these things add up to a great deal of public concern. Wally mentioned it, and I'll go ahead and say too, and you also touched on it too, that it starts at the top and comes down. I think we are very, very, very fortunate to have you in the position that you're in, and to have the chancellors that we have and have the athletic directors that we have in our institutions here in the Atlantic Coast Conference. It has to start there. I always look at any athletic community, and it is quite large, the players particularly under scholarship. I look at it as sort of a very fine cross-section of our own community. You're always going to have an incident or two, as we do in our own community, of some wrongdoing or hopefully minor infractions. This can be handled within the system and should be. It's when it becomes so blatant, or It's when it reaches such a serious proportion as apparently and obviously it did at San Francisco and it has at other schools, that one becomes genuinely concerned about the path that athletics has taken here in the last few years. I don't know if the San Francisco thing is as widespread as people feel it is. Probably to one degree or another it is. That's why I certainly appreciate the stand that you've taken here in the last few months.
We want to try to keep it the way it is. I think there's so much that can happen that helps everybody. Well, let me mention some names to you.
Sure.
Roman Gabriel.
Oh, yeah. Roman Gabriel was a fine young man. I remember him as just being the kind of kid you'd be proud to have as your son when he was at NC State, and how great an athlete was. You know, the sad thing about Roman's career, though, Bill, was the state never could win. I mean, really, had some bad years, 2 wins, 3 wins, things like that when he was quarterback, which I suppose just proves the point that one good football player won't bring you a championship. That's not to say the other guys weren't good, too. There were a lot of circumstances there. But yes, Roman was very exciting. I saw him play in high school, and he could throw a football further than anybody I'd ever seen. Pretty good baseball player, too.
How great was he, though? His jersey, I can see that regularly, as a matter of fact, there at Case Athletic Center.
Yeah, he's in the North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame.
Everywhere.
Sure.
Ted Mann told me recently, Gary, on this program that David Thompson was the greatest basketball player that ever played in the Atlantic Coast Conference. Is he right?
I would have no qualms with that statement whatsoever. He's certainly the greatest basketball player that I've ever seen in person or on TV or anywhere else. He could do so many things. I think it's a combination of things. One, there are obviously a lot of great 6'10", 6'11", and 7-foot guys. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Lou Alcindor when he played at UCLA, or Bill Walton when he played at UCLA. But David was only 6'4", 6'4 and a half. What he could do with the basketball, or without the basketball, is just phenomenal. I still have great memories, and I know Wally does, broadcasting him every ball game for 4 years.
Yeah, he was a great player. I wouldn't go quite so far as to say he's the greatest player I've ever seen, however. I'd put him along with 4 or 5 others, though, and would really be reluctant to choose between them or among them. David Thompson, and I put in the same class with him Phil Ford.
Yeah.
They did different things, but one is as good as the other. Bill Walton is my favorite among the big men because I thought he tried harder. I thought Lou Alcindor sort of loafed a lot of times. I never saw Bill Walton when I thought he was loafing. And also this guy number 52 for Carolina last year. I can't think of his name.
Down in Gastonia.
Yes, sir, from down in Gastonia. A great player. I put him in the same league, by the way.
I know Dick Herbert's probably watching, and he would want me to add one more, and I wouldn't have any qualms with this either. He still thinks the finest player you ever saw to come into Reynolds Coliseum and play was Bill Bradley in college.
Yeah, Bill Bradley was a good player. You haven't asked this question, but I feel that players today are better than they were when you and I were coming along. And I think that we all got so excited in 1957 when the Carolina team won the national championship and they had great players. I'm not sure those guys could make the teams today.
Well, I heard you rebroadcast that not so long ago, and I thought about that.
I just think kids are better. They're bigger, they're faster, they're stronger.
Well, don't you think basketball at the high school level is incredibly good these days?
No doubt that has been one of the reasons this has happened, because you just can't learn to be great after you become a freshman at a college, and I think that's definitely it, Bill. And not only that, it probably goes even beyond that, because we ought to give Everett Case credit for just making basketball popular in North Carolina. I remember the first time I was doing the PA at the old Woolen Gym when I was a student at Carolina, and NC State came over to play the Tar Heels, and it was just going to be another ho-hum Carolina victory. And he brought on a bunch of guys from Indiana who just ran circles around the team and just literally blew them out of the gym. And from that moment on, basketball became exciting because everybody tried to catch up with Everett. And we started seeing goals in people's backyards and kids out playing basketball that I'd never seen before. And so I think it starts there.
Well, you know, you and I have seen here on this institution probably a most dramatic change in intercollegiate athletics. I was chuckling with Gary before you came in. I remember so well Doc Newton, who was a coach here in football. The alumni said to him, "Let's play some big-name team." Doc scheduled Tennessee that next season, we kicked off. Caffigo ran 99 yards and fell down from exhaustion. And Doc said, well, we playing big name teams in the first play of the game. But it's really become very exciting and a marvelous asset to the institution, I think.
I think it is too, and that's where I think athletics is so important, is because it brings folks together on a common ground. Up there in these stands for the last 2 games, you see people up there who don't see each other except maybe just on these Saturdays when they're here, and it brings people together. It unites them with a sort of a common goal, that is yelling and screaming and cheering NC State and wanting them to do well, and it's an equalizer also, because I think the greatest lessons to be learned in life are learned from playing football, and if you can't play, to watch, because being able to get up after somebody knocks you down and shake his hand and say, hey, nice play, that takes something, takes some character.
You know, I just listening to you and looking at that sign, Carter Finley. The Carter brothers and Mr. Finley are 2 great sports figures.
Oh, yes,
too,
sir.
in the sense of their involvement, aren't they?
Well, not only for sports, but for all areas. They're so, they've been so generous with the things that they've been blessed with.
You've already done a couple of games by the time this program repeats, but what do you think's going to happen in the conference this football season? Where will we be in November?
Well, Monty Kiffin has a great line. He says State's going to be in the Orange Bowl. And that's true, because we're playing Miami
That's right.
in the Orange Bowl in November.
Well, it's going to be an exciting season, though, I'm sure.
I think Carolina probably has the strongest team. Do you, Gary?
Oh, I would think so. Right now, unless something else develops, it looks like Carolina and Clemson again will be the top 2 teams, and I think the Carolina-Clemson game will probably decide the Atlantic Coast Conference Championship. Unfortunately for Carolina, it is in Clemson this year. State, if they can solve 1 or 2 question marks, can be very competitive and do some damage in the conference. Obviously, one of the question marks from last year, and this doesn't need to really be repeated too much, is the quarterback slot. They need to find a quarterback, and hopefully by this time they've found one.
What do you think about basketball? What's the season going to be like? I know it's unfair to ask you here in the middle of the football
As far as
season,
State's concerned, I think it's going to be a strong year with 3 outstanding seniors. Gee, Sidney Lowe and Derek Wittenberg and Thurl Bailey are just great players, and you've got Cozell McQueen and Lorenzo Charles, and hopefully Dinky Proctor is going to be able to contribute a lot this year. State will have a solid year. They've got Ernie Myers, one of their freshmen coming in, and Alvin Battle. As far as the conference is concerned, can Carolina repeat without James Worthy? That's a tough loss. They do have some great recruits coming in.
but it's a tough conference, isn't it?
Ralph
really
is back.
Yes, it is a tough conference. The same person who told Doc Newton to go out and schedule some big-name football must have spoken to Jim Valvano. I think State will have a hard time equaling last year's record because they're playing some great teams.
Excuse me, we've run out of time. It's just great to sit out here and reminisce with you.
Good being with you.
Thank you for all that you do for North Carolina State football and basketball and all other sports, fellas. And it's grand to have you on North Carolina people.
Well, thank you.
This program was made possible by a grant from Wachovia Bank and Trust Company.